I think that it's probably past time that I talked about it. And my intent with being open and sharing this personal story is that I hope it starts a conversation on this campus, and I hope that it brings some things to light, because there are a lot of deficiencies and there are a lot of ways that we as a nation, as an employer, do not protect our citizens or our employees. This particular incident, I was in our office. We have a meeting room called the Chambers, and it leads into where our offices are, where our staff is, and where the speaker's office is. And I was standing about 6 feet in front of the door that comes from the Chambers to the offices. And I was talking to a peer, and one of my coworkers was walking in behind me, and I didn't see him because he was behind me. And whenever he walked by, he slapped my rear end hard enough where it was a noise, and I felt it and it hurt, and it jolted me. And he let out a big woo and kept walking. And, you know, I was stunned. I was embarrassed. I thought, you know, how unprofessional. Why did he think he could do that to me? And at the time, I considered this person a friend. You know, we were social. We would go to dinner together. Our families would interact with each other. And I was so stunned. And I just didn't know what to do. I kind of froze. And I thought, you know, I got to do something about this. So I finished my conversation. You know, the person I was talking to made a comment, and I addressed that comment, and then we finished our conversation, and it was Lucian Tiger. And so after that, I went and I you know, nobody was around. It was just me and him. And I said, look, that was really inappropriate. I don't appreciate it. And you know, you don't have permission to touch me. And I'm really mad about this. I'm very angry. I probably said some cuss words. I don't know, because I was really mad and I was shocked and I was hurt. And he laughed. He laughed at me, and he turned and he walked away. And I was like, okay. I was still very angry. And I thought, I don't know. So this was right before planning session. And in planning session, we're in the Chambers, and everybody's around our table in that room. And so I went into planning session, and Mark Randolph could tell something was wrong. And he looked at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I kind of rolled my eyes and waved my hand. And because at this particular time, you know, Lucian sat pretty much right across the table from me. And so I was like, you know what, I'll tell you about it later. And so I had another conversation with him later that evening. And again, you know, I said, this is not okay, and I want an apology, and, you know, we need to set boundaries, and you need to know that this behavior is not okay, it's not acceptable, and this is crap. So he said, yeah, okay, whatever. And I left it at that. Whenever I talked to Mark later, he was asking me if I was okay, and I said, yeah, and I was telling him what happened. And he told me then, he said, you know, you need to report this. You need to document it. You need to send an email to Internal Affairs right now, and you need to document this. Even if you don't file a formal complaint, he said you need to document it. And I thought, man, it's just so personal. What do you do? I mean, nobody's used to this training, or to this, nobody's trained for this. Nobody's used to this behavior. When something happens to you, you're not sure how to act, right? I mean, do you shut down? Do you get angry? Do you lash out? Do you quit and go somewhere else? I mean, what do you do? So I told him, I said, well, let me think about it, you know. And then all of those things, right? Everybody's going to know your business. Everybody's going to be judging you. They're going to say, well, maybe you asked for it. They're going to say, well, maybe you wanted him to do that. They're going to get all up in your business. My children will know that this happened, and they're going to be looking at me and at that person who did this to me. And my husband, what is my husband going to say? You know, I mean, my husband would have come up to the office and had some words with him. I know he would have. My husband and I have talked about it since, and he said, yeah, I would have done that. That I'm still angry about it. You know, he's still angry about it now, and this happened a while ago. So there's all of these things that come into your head and you know, there's no set way. I mean, it's really easy to second guess someone and say, well, why didn't they do this? Or why didn't they say that? Or, well, she's so outspoken. She would have said something if that really happened at the time, right? Because I can hear y'all. I know y'all are watching, and I know you're thinking of that because I can hear it. So, you know, there's no set way, right? I decided to handle it personally and not say anything about it externally. And that was a mistake. Now I know, now I understand why employers have mandatory reporting. Now I understand why these things can't be tolerated. And you know what? At the end of the day, if I felt like I had been sexually harassed and it had been investigated and we found that there was no sexual harassment, you know, even if it starts a dialogue, right? I mean, there have to be processes. The reason you have processes in place is so that we don't have the emotions, right? We don't have the friendships that interfere. It's the process. You follow the process, and a good process protects our employees, and it protects people who are vulnerable to other people in power or that have power over them. But at the time, I did not feel that internal affairs would take me seriously. And part of the reason I agreed to do this interview is because when I look back at it, if someone in my position is afraid, then how much more are frontline employees afraid? If I'm in a supposed position of leadership and I was afraid that my own peers would not take me seriously, then I know no one else trusts us to handle their investigations. I know no one else trusts us to handle their situations when they're affected by sexual harassment and by sexual assault and by institutional bullying here on this campus.